Welcome, everyone, to our Prison of Lies. I don't know where that came from. I'm Laura.
And I'm Rachel.
And I think if I were to have a prison name, it would definitely be the play of my last name. Bookie. Like, there's no room.
You putting your last name out there. Wow, you trying to get doxxed.
Bookie.
No,
Yep, that's my last name. Bookie.
I think if I had a name from the prison, it would come from the showers, and it would be the chameleon, because they're all pointing different directions.
Love it.
And guys, today we have a fun little spin that we are excited to introduce to you. It's getting warm. The days are getting longer. And we all know the ancient saying, sun's out, bums out, because we are putting on our short shorts, our teeny tiny, barely there short shorts for the summer.
Speak for yourself. My bum is always covered.
No, not right now. We're going to shoot for the short shorts, but I feel like we're probably going to end up wearing Bermuda shorts. But essentially what that means is we're going to be trying a faster, quicker format for the show. And we're going to try to keep it a little short. Less is more for the summer. We're going to give you the same level of research, the same taboo facts in a faster, 30-minute-ish episode format. As well as video, we're going to dabble in that world. So check us out on the YouTubes if that's not where you're watching us right now. So let us know what you think about it. Give it a shot. At the end of the summer, we'll be reevaluating if we want to stay fast and loose or if we want to go back to those in-depth dives. But just wanted to give you a heads up before we head down. Get down and dirty in prison.
And we've got a doozy.
Yeah, I know. We're just like fast, fancy-free, footloose pedophiles. Let's go.
So, like any white middle-aged woman, I like white wine and I like true crime. I consume a lot of true crime content. And sometimes one of the only things that's sustaining me in my heart of hearts when listening to these cases on podcasts, watching them on Forensic Files or all these other places, is the idea that at least pedophiles get murdered in prison.
Oh, yeah. Like, of course, our above-the-board justice, it's not quite there. I think anybody who listens to true crime knows that we don't quite serve justice on the level that some of these fuckers are deserving. So, totally natural to take a little bit of glee in the fact that our prison justice systems, they don't hold any punches, man.
Or so we hope. So if you've ever watched Law and Order, you've heard this before. And I think that was my first introduction to that concept because I started watching Law and Order like in high school or something. But it literally could have been any dramatized crime show because people say it constantly. It's all like, oh, you're really going to get what's coming to you in prison and you're going to get passed around like the neighborhood bicycle in prison or whatever people say.
The neighborhood bicycle.
I don't know.
It's like, I would love to go to the store, but it's not my turn on the neighborhood bicycle.
But I want to know, is it actually true? Do these worst of the worst criminals really hate pedophiles like everyone else? Is a convicted sex offender really going to live the rest of his life in fear, being raped or murdered in the shower room? Or is this sense of justice that I feel, is it unfounded? Is it absolutely not true or somewhere in the middle? Today, we're going to find out.
Oh boy, I am going to put on my prison pants and let's begin.
So as of June 2023, there were about 1,600 federal prisoners incarcerated for sexual offenses.
And Laura, please remind me how many bears are incarcerated for sexual offenses?
0 on last count.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do. I absolutely do.
Bears versus pedos. I'd watch that.
I think everybody would. Because we know who's going to win. It's the fucking Bears. So that 1,600, that's about 12% of the prison inmate population federally. Most of these men, are in for child pornography, but there are other crimes I'm not going to mention because that's too high on the bummer index, and I don't want to go there.
Yeah, let's please. No.
Yeah, we all know the gist of what we're talking about here. And on average, those sex offenders will serve about 16 years in prison.
Not long enough.
It is not long enough, but it is a long time to have a target painted on your back and live to tell the tale, right?
And what's the cliche here, right? That there's guys in there doing life. They have no chance of getting out, no chance of seeing the outside world again. So why not take out a few diddlers on the way? While you're at it, might be worse ways to spend a lifetime. If you've smashed a few skulls in of people who've hurt children, some might argue you've done more for society than the average person.
And I would be one of those people that might agree with you in that argument. So my first question that I wanted to answer is, where do these fuckers go? And to find this out, I turned to an interesting new field I had no idea that existed. I found it in the course of my research. But of course it fucking exists. Prison consultants.
Okay, please tell me they're on LinkedIn. Please. I did search one and they're on LinkedIn.
They are. Okay, I didn't check. But
the prison consultants are on LinkedIn. Everybody's on LinkedIn.
So these are people that you or your family can pay to help prepare you for your prison sentence. And of course this exists, right? If you take the time to think about it, because this is pretty much exclusively for rich, white-collar criminals and pedos / child pornography / whatever. They are not tough. They're not used to a lifetime of violence. They are not ready to enter the prison system. So, yes, of course this fucking exists.
Okay, see, when I first heard of this, I thought these were consultants who help prisons run better, like maybe
sure
more ethically.
I'm sure those exist.
But this, what we're talking about, is more like a rush counselor. So they're going to help these little losers get into the right top tier gang. Like, hey there, hope you're having a great sentence, not just a good sentence. Do you know who I'm referencing here? That's another TikTok lady. She's on there doing Rush or whatnot. She's always talks about the outfit she's wearing. Like, today I'm wearing the federal issue orange. My bandana is from commissary. And of course, I have my St. Mary pendant with a Figaro chain. You know, gotta have your prison gear. It's just every day she was out there being like, I'm Russian, Alabama sororities. So this reminds me a lot of what people will pay.
Yeah.
To help them get into the right sorority, get into the right prison gang. Let's go, consultants. You're out there making your way on LinkedIn. Let's go.
Everybody wants to be a part of something, right?
When your skin color just isn't enough.
Truth. So these people who hire consultants, they are usually the ones that are used to having the power. And newsflash, in prison, the geeky white dude, he is not running the show. He does not have any kind of power to speak of.
Just like the Southern Greek system.
And maybe a lot like the Southern Greek system. I don't know. I was never part of sorority or fraternity. You gonna get stomped.
Oh, they're stomping for sure. Stomp the yard.
Yeah.
That's not white, but...
These consultants, they're going to tell you how not to get stomped, how to keep your head down, and how to get out fast. And when I was looking at it, my first thought is just like, this is just fucking privilege. You know, white guys that are like, oh, I did something bad that I shouldn't have done. I'll pay somebody to get me out of the grind a little bit easier.
I mean, my takeaway was like, money apparently cannot buy you basic common sense. Like, come on, you don't need to pay someone to tell you how to navigate prison. Just watch Oz. I don't know. I feel like that would very well equip you for prison. You get the gist from it. And that's from somebody who's never even watched Oz, but I've just got the general vibe, and I think I can manage. That's because old chameleon over here is always looking every which way. I'm safe. My back is covered.
So the prison consulting group that I checked out, which is Zucas Consulting, they have a really robust website, and there's a lot of information on there. So I am going to give them props for putting a lot out there free for people to read, people who don't have the funds.
Gotta generate leads.
I know, but it was really robust. Like, truly.
That's just
like,
a tenth of it.
so I will give them a little bit of credit there. But negative props, because the way that they framed sex offenders made my stomach turn. I mean, like some of these lines, I have one quoted here. At the Zukas Consulting Group, we believe all people are redeemable. We pride ourselves on being non-judgmental. And that quote appeared right alongside a giant word cloud of phrases like sex tourism, exploitation, and trafficking. And I'm just like, I fucking hate you. Fuck off.
So basically, they're just like, babes, you're redeemable as long as your cash is green.
Yeah. I mean,
You pay us,
yeah.
we'll believe you, you know?
Just like any good defense attorney. So they break it down that the treatment that you're going to get as a child molester in prison will always be tied to the type of facility that you're in. The higher security level, the worse it is going to get for you. And with that note, I would like to say Supermax for everyone, please.
You mean for all sex offenders, right? Not
Yes.
like general pop
Yes.
folks.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. Supermax. Send them straight to Supermax.
And this is generally true for all inmates, no matter what you're in for. So lower security prison means there are less violent offenders inside, which means less violence happens at these facilities. So a prisoner's life may be a little bit more comfortable. And if there are inmates there who do get violent in the lower security, they're typically transferred out to a higher security prison. And high security, well, there's somewhere in between. There's like a medium security. So there's like a step escalation.
You're safer in the lower security because people still have something to lose.
Precisely. You nailed it. But high security, that's where your violent offenders go. And these facilities, generally more brutal for everyone, but especially for child molesters. And what I was wondering as I was looking at this research is, how do these prisoners find out about their neighbor's crime? Do they just ask? And the obvious solution to that is, well, you fucking lie. I mean, you didn't get into prison by being an honest person. But it turns out most states and all federal prisons, they give prisoners their paperwork, and it has their crimes listed, usually just in like code, but people are in on it, right? Like they know
free
what
time.
the code. Yeah, they know exactly what the codes mean. And in prison lingo, this is called a jacket or papers. And apparently it is a huge breach of prison etiquette to refuse to show this when a fellow prisoner asks.
So they have them on them at all times, or like they just gave them their paperwork.
I don't think it's like on them at all times, but it's either in their cell or on their body. You know what I mean? Like it's accessible
news to
by
me.
them. It was totally new to me as well. And if you refuse to show it, it's going to show that you've got something to hide. And if you've got something to hide, they know what it is. Because there's generally only one thing that anyone will hide in prison. Because the truth is that hardened criminals and non-hardened criminals, they really do fucking hate a child molester, and they are looking for them.
And I'm sure that the jacket is just the confirmation, right? Because I'm pretty sure we can spot them.
Yeah.
We can all spot somebody who looks sketchy. We all know someone we're thinking of off the top of our head, or at least a vision of what that person might look like. But I would like to say it is really helpful for the state or the government to mark these folks so that the prisoners can easily identify them. I'd say thanks. Thanks, government. You've got one thing right today.
And if it is a state that doesn't provide prisoners with their jackets, like you said, there are other ways to tell. If a prisoner doesn't seem to match the crimes that they say they're in for, you know, some like fucking nerdy ass guy with big ass glasses was like, yeah, I've been drug trafficking for years, you know. It's like
really?
And if he tells different stories to different people, that's a red flag.
That's how you know he's not a hardened criminal, because he can't keep his story straight. Like real criminals,
No,
know
they
what's
can't keep
up.
their stories straight either. They're always fucking lying and fucking it up because that's why they ended up in prison in the first place.
That's true.
But anyway,
That's true.
another thing is if they come in from a prison transfer all beat up, that is a red flag. Because inmates assume they got their ass kicked at their last prison for being dirty. Hence, they've got moved to another one. Like getting your ass kicked for like getting in a skirmish over, I don't know, the commissary. Like you're not probably going to get moved. But if you're
Because your life isn't in danger.
yeah, exactly. But if you're repeatedly getting your ass kicked, that's a good sign.
Somebody's going to start asking questions. They're going to say, hey, let me see your jacket, bruh.
Yeah, exactly.
How'd you end up here?
Mm-hmm. Or also the guards will just straight out tell prisoners because, again, everyone hates a child molester. And
They're just stirring the pot. They're like, let's let the games begin.
I don't blame them. And that's what they call them, by the way. They call them dirty for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
They also call them chesters, as in Chester the molester.
I like
Chomo, that's short for child molester. Chomo, child.
Okay.
Tree jumpers. And this one I had to look up because I was like, that does not make any fucking sense.
Jumping out of trees.
Jumping, literally, that was what it was. So jumping out from behind a bunch of trees or bushes, like to get to a child, like that. You know, you think of that, like
Walking
guy.
home along the path.
Yeah.
The kid's like, da-da-da-da-da, and then all of a sudden somebody jumps out and it's like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, exactly. Or short eyes, like the idea of like, oh, I only have eyes for you. Like I have eyes for, as in I'm romantically interested in short people. I have eyes for short people, short eyes, aka kids. And
Okay.
they get a little creative in prison, right? They got nothing but time. And chomo and dirty seems to be the most frequent that I've seen in the research that I had done.
Okay, yeah, I like the dirty. The dirty makes sense. But outside of that, my personal favorite is probably the Chesters. It's like, come on, it just rolls off the tongue. Chester the molester.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. The other one's a little bit too abstract. You know, you got to take a second and go, what? Oh. And you know what? You got a lot of time in prison, but you don't want to look stupid. So the longer you take to figure out what they're saying, the more stupid you're going to look. And like, who wants to be the laughing stock of all the prisoners, especially when there's not a Chester around? Should have got a rush counselor.
And so what do fellers. So what do fellow prisoners do to chomos?
Not good things, I hope.
It 100% depends on the security level. At low security facilities, everyone is looking to get out fast. Like you said, they've got something to lose. So no one is super likely to stab you in the shower. But they will bully the shit out of them. They take their food. They socially ostracize them. They'll basically like shove them around. They get last to do everything. People like piss and shit in their food and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I was like, don't waste the food. Take it and eat it yourself. Good gracious.
So no prison buddies for the pedos means there's no one to protect them if things go south. It's an uncomfortable situation, but it's not life-threatening usually.
We can do better than that.
Oh, we can. And so in the medium security prisons, it seems to be kind of luck of the draw where you end up. Some are more, like you said, people have more to lose and some don't. But no matter where you go, you're definitely going to be getting that social ostracization and lowest on the pecking order. Only in medium security add in a sprinkling of more violent offenders who aren't going to think too hard about getting a group together and stomping your ass. And that's what they do pretty often. The intent of these attacks, interestingly, I think, isn't always to kill. It's mostly to prove a point and to move these people out of general population. Though calling them people, I feel like, is a stretch.
To get these dirties out of chomos, out of Gen Pop. And that's interesting, too, because, right, in prison, you don't have a lot of control over your life. Your life is pretty much controlled by the system. So in that environment, it's interesting that these people are exercising their one ability they can to control their surroundings, and they're using that to get rid of fucking child molesters. I think that's actually very beautiful.
I completely understand the need, and we'll go back to that motivation thing again in a second. But
Yeah.
when these chomos are marked for violence by other inmates, the guards have to take them to protective custody. That's why they do this. Why they beat them up. They might not be looking to kill them, but they're looking to have them moved into this custody. And in that protective custody, the molester is going to eat, shower, and uses the yard at off hours, so he will be around other inmates as infrequently as possible, which means Gen Pop doesn't have to be around them, and that's exactly what they want. Like you said, they want them fucking gone. They don't want to be around them.
And this reminds me of that age-old saying, you can't choose your roomie, but you can stomp the shit out of them, so if you don't want them around, then kick them out of there.
Just like in the rush system. Does that also track there? No?
Yeah, I've been stomped in and stomped out of many a sorority in my day. I've seen it.
There was a quote in one of the studies that I read, and all this is linked in the show notes. Some of them are quite interesting. I would take a look at them. But one of them was from a guy who was doing time for burglary and drugs. And he said, quote, "I committed a crime. I got caught. I did my time, but shit, I never hurt anyone. I never even hit anyone before I went to prison. I never hit my girlfriends. I never hurt a kid. I wouldn't want to hurt a kid. I've only had sex with adults that wanted to have sex with me. So I get to hang out in the yard in prison with all the freaks. What is up with that? That is not right."
I mean, hearing this, sounds like this guy is mostly a stand-up citizen. Why is he even in prison? Burglary, guys, that's just stuff. Who gives a shit? Stuff. Throw it out the window. You can't take it with you. Drugs? Everybody does drugs this day and age. You can't walk around without seeing drugs.
Or
Get
smelling
this
them.
guy out of there. Truth. Gosh, get this guy out. Less guys like him, more Chesters, more rapists, and more girlfriend beaters, and less dudes like him. Who's with me? Do you hear the people sing?
Definitely agree on the drugs without question. The burglary, you put
Can
him
you
in
think of anything
low
you
security.
own that you want to send somebody to hang out with a bunch of molesters for?
It's like a gateway drug, right?
But
Like
as long as
burglary,
you're not, this guy had no inclination or desire to hurt people.
it's all case by case. I can't make a blanket statement other than drugs. Like drugs are just like individuals choosing to do a thing. It's like prostitution. It's like, everyone's kind of like willing in the situation. There's other ways to go about doing it. And so but yes, he does. He sounds like a stand-up guy. I will definitely agree with you on that. It seems very unfair to take somebody like that and shove them into this scenario where they have to fucking hang out with child molesters.
To say we agree with him and we understand where he's coming from.
Yes. And I think all of this brings up some really interesting points about the prison social hierarchy. Something about moral relativism, right? We're talking about like drugs, burglary, it's just stuff versus physical harm. But this is supposed to be a fucking short episode. I'm going to leave it up to the listener to
That's a
determine,
lot of philosophizing.
yes, what they think about why these prisoners are doing what they do to child molesters. Is it to maintain a social hierarchy, a moral high ground, kind of that idea of honor amongst thieves? Is it a vigilantism situation, or do they feel like they're performing a community service? I think they are. Anyway, you chew on that on your own time because it's a really interesting concept to think about and explore.
It's funny. It aligns with our values as well. So I'll just say, convicts, they're just like us. Yeah.
So back to that main question. Do these fuckers really get killed in prison? Let me lay some facts on you.
Let go.
Male sex offenders, they make up about 12% of the prison population. That was what I mentioned at the top of the episode. But They account for nearly 30% of homicide victims inside the prison walls. And in case you aren't good with math, let me break it down for you in a very simple term. They are disproportionately murdered over other convicts. And I would just like to say, yes, thank you, there is a God.
Devil's avocado here, Larry. I would say if there's a God, then why is he letting these children be molested in the first place?
Don't think too hard about it. Listen, it's just something that I fall back on.
Don't think too hard. Just read about prison murders.
Now, it's not an absolute sure thing they're going to get murdered in prison. It's not a death sentence.
Drats.
I know, right? But relative to other criminals, they definitely have that target on their back. At a bare minimum, they are going to get their fucking asses kicked to get them away from everyone else. And more than occasionally, this can escalate to full-on murder.
Noise.
Murder, not moiter.
Hey guys, we're gonna moita. We're gonna moita that chomo over there.
Jewish moita.
I don't know. I like some kind of gangster style.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Transatlantic accent.
Kind of New Yorky.
Sure.
I don't know.
It sounded.
But
it felt right in the moment.
Long story short, Law and Order did not fucking lie to me. It also turns out that the Federal Bureau of Prisons, they know this is an issue. They have created 9 facilities across the nation that have programs for these vile humans. They are called SOMP facilities, SOMP, sex offender management programs. And each one of these facilities have about half of their populations that are sex offenders.
SOMP facilities. I think
it should be stomp.
That's what I was going to say. The general population is like, oh, we also have a special facility for child abusers. We're going to call it the stomp facility, and we're going to stomp the shit out of you.
Yep.
But that's their method. I have an idea of how to manage that population on my own, and that management system rhymes with schmastration. Snip, snip. Just
agreed. No, it's not more than snip. Oh, like snip, snip, like full on.
Yeah, I'm not even saying chemical. I'm just like, you
yeah.
That's for people who are like, I'm struggling with these urges. Like, can you help me? But like a physical, like, you remember that big old paper cutter that you had in elementary school? That's for people who actually offend.
Yeah, I'd volunteer for that job, wouldn't you? So according to those jackasses over at the Zukas Consulting Group, quote, these SOMP facilities tend to be much easier prisons where inmates incarcerated for like offenses can survive and even thrive. And that can just fuck right off. I want them wasting away daily, wondering what the fuck's going to happen to them the next day, every second, every moment of their entire sentence, which of course should be the rest of their lives. I mean,
yeah, but it's only 16 years, so.
But I have some bright news for you, because there are plenty of people that do actually end up living that life of living in fear, and even more thankfully, some of them have had their lives ended this way. I have a few pretty gruesome tales for you, Rachel, if you're ready to stomach them.
I don't know if I can, but here we are. This is why they pay me the big bucks. Let's go.
In 2020, at the California State Prison in Corcoran, David Bobb, 48, and Graham DeLuis Conti, 62, they were beaten to death by fellow inmate John Watson. Bob and DeLuis Conte, they were serving life sentences, the two of them, for aggravated sexual assault of a child under 14. I don't want to know how old that person actually was. And one of them, the articles did not say which one, kept watching PBS Kids repeatedly in like the communal TV room. Watson, who was already serving a life sentence for murder that took place during a home invasion, he got pretty fucking tired of this. And one evening, when that Chester walked in and turned on PBS Kids, Watson snapped he picked up a cane and he beat this fucker's head in. And Watson, after it was done, he turned around, walked his way to the guard station to turn himself in because he was like, well, they're going to fucking find it. As he was walking down the hallway, he met another sex offender in the hallway. And in his own words, in for a penny, in for a pound. I figured I'd just do everybody a favor. And so he killed the second one and strutted right up to the guard station, told them what he'd done, and the officers did not even believe him until they went and they found those two bodies themselves.
It's just like he really did not want to watch another episode of Arthur.
Well, he didn't. Like, felt like he was mocking them. Like, no, like everybody around him was like, "What the fuck is this shit? This again?"
Yeah, he's like putting on kids shows. Like maybe it was shows with kids on it. I don't know. I'm thinking of like PBS Kids. I'm thinking of Daniel Tiger.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and there is sections with kids on it, right? Daniel Tiger.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
Ugh. Anyway.
Another one.
Another one. In 2003, at the maximum security Souza Baranovsky
Polish
Correctional Facility in Lancaster, Massachusetts, a former priest. Yeah. John Giogan. He was serving a 10-year sentence for indecent assault and battery of a 10-year-old boy. He deserved a lot more than that. He had quite the laundry list of accusations, and he had been placed in protective custody because he had previous issues in the prison with other prisoners. But Joseph Lee Druce, he was also in protective custody. Druce jammed Giogan's cell door shut so officers couldn't interrupt while he strangled and stomped Giogan, the priest, to death. And he had been molested as a child himself.
I was going to say, yeah.
Giogan was a very high-profile case. It was all over the fucking news. And Druce knew exactly what he wanted to do to this guy when Giogan arrived. It took the officers quite a while to get into the cell. It's actually 5 of these officers trying to break the door in. It was pretty fucking crazy. There's video of them on
I'm sure they were trying hallway. Real hard. They're like...
They are. No, like you can see it in the video. They were really fucking trying.
But I was not watching the video of that.
You don't get to see inside. You just see them trying to get in. But deed was done. There was a dead child molesting rapist who was a priest. So,
I mean, I have no doubt that there is a fair amount of folks who are in the prison system who were abused as children, right? Because that kind of trauma reciprocates itself. So, yeah, I could see where they would especially have some ill will towards folks who are in there for that reason.
Yep. Okay, these next two are UK, actually, in Britain. So, and from these two, whew, they're a lot more violent with pedophiles than we are. That's not true on the whole, but just based on these two stories.
In these two cases, they had a little bit more access to equipment and time, maybe?
Yes.
It's just the prison systems in England are maybe a little bit more lax.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you're a little hobnobber, cheeky bastard, aren't ya? We're just going to put you in a quiet room for a few years, you little cheeky bastard.
So, across the pond at Full Sutton Prison in East Yorkshire, Richard Huckle was serving life in prison for what he'd done. I can't even talk about what Huckle did. I don't
want to know.
I listened to a podcast on it.
Of course you did. Did you drink white wine?
No, I was trying to listen to more about his murder, like in the end, and then it barely even talked about it. Anyway, it's so bad. Just know he deserves to be in the absolute deepest pit of hell. But luckily, Huckle got to take the fucking expressway because in 2019, just a few months into his prison sentence, another inmate named Paul Fitzgerald, who he himself was a pedophile and completely fucking insane, Fitzgerald raped, tortured, and killed Huckle in a prolonged attack. It lasted 80 minutes. What the fuck are they doing in that prison, first of all? But
yeah, nobody knew what was happening for an hour and a half.
Yeah, but whatever. It's fine. No, literally, it's fine.
It was tea time. What do you expect them to be watching prisoners during tea time? Come on.
So Fitzgerald, he tied him up with an electrical cord. He anally raped him with a kitchen utensil of some kind. The articles didn't say which. I didn't ask. Well, I didn't look too hard anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Yeah. Shoved a penknife up his nose into his brain, stabbed him repeatedly, and finally strangled him with that electrical cord. And this, I know it sounds maybe a little rough, but this is 100% a win-win scenario in my book.
So he was so bad that another pedophile was like, you need to suffer.
I don't know about that. I think that...
Or was it just another madman getting his hands on a victim? This one's a little bit more lines blurred.
It is. It is. Fitzgerald is 100% fucking psycho, because basically the result of all this, Fitzgerald, he will spend his entire life behind bars. There's no possibility of parole. He was not in for murder. He was in for assault or something. So he's never getting out again. And on the other side, Britain's worst pedophile died in the most horrific way possible. So again, win-win.
I mean, not possible, but a horrific way, yes.
But really fucking bad. So I'm okay with it. I'm good with it.
It was a 2-for-1.
Yeah, 2 for 1. One's gone. The other one is never getting out again. Great. And lastly,
last but not least,
we have Robert Maudsley. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So he is known as Hannibal the Cannibal.
Oh, of Silence of the Lambs?
He's called that because he is considered so dangerous. He is kept in an underground cell that looks, to all accounts, very similar to the one pictured in Silence of the Lambs for Dr. Lecter.
Oh, so was he a cannibal, though? Or did he just have the...
Fate. That we'll get into it. So,
okay.
Maudsley is considered too dangerous to ever be around other humans in any capacity. That is why he is in this basement cell. And Maudsley had a pretty fucking rough childhood. So he was sent to an orphanage. He was sent to foster care. Eventually went back to his parents, which did not end well. And when he was older, he, left home, got addicted to drugs, started working as a male prostitute. He landed himself in a mental hospital for the criminally insane in 1974 because he strangled a client of his who had showed him pictures of the kids that he had abused. He lost it. He strangled him. So that's his first thing that got him in prison or a mental hospital. So in this criminal mental hospital, 1977, he and another inmate teamed up to torture and kill a convicted child molester named David Francis for over 9 hours in his own room.
What?
It's a mental hospital. So again, it's a less
because they don't even have
environment.
guards. It's just like staff. It's like care people, right? They're not even in the mindset.
Yeah. They tortured him. They eventually garroted him, strangled him. And when Francis was found, his skull had been cracked open and part of his brain was missing. Hence, Hannibal the Cannibal. The rumor was that he had eaten it, but he hasn't. He's denied it.
Well, I wouldn't fess up to that personally, but I also wouldn't crack somebody's skull open and do the rest of the procedure. So,
yeah. So Maudsley was then sent to a real prison in 1978, and after only a few weeks that he was transferred there, he proceeded to kill 2 other inmates by stabbing them to death in their own cells. So basically, he went around the prison and he was looking to just fucking kill a bunch of people. One of them, I think, was a wife murderer, and the other one was convicted of raping a 7-year-old girl.
Oh, so he definitely was looking for like a specific type, right? He wasn't just like, I don't like to look at you, I'm going to murder you. And it's just like he's got so much trauma from his past.
Yeah. And when it was all said and done, he took his shiv, went up to the guard station, slapped it down, and said, "You're going to be too short in your roll call today."
Okay, but that's kind of cunty right there to just go up and say it like that. Be like, 2 are gone. Sorry. Just going to give you a heads up.
So there you have it, folks. Pedos, they really do die in prison. Or at the very least, they certainly don't live very nice.
They live very nicely.
Very nice lives in there. And I don't know about you, but that makes me sleep just a little bit sounder.
If they can get caught.
Don't think about that, guys.
Let's not think too hard. Let's enjoy this righteous indignation of bad people getting their comeuppance. And if you enjoyed participating in that and you want to share it with a friend who you think would like it just as much, please send them this episode. We want you to treat this podcast like a Chester in the prison shower. Pass it around. But seriously, we're an indie podcast, and recommendations is how we survive. Or if you like to hide in the shadows, man, I feel you. That's my favorite place. I'm a lurker. And if you're a lurker like me, leave us a rating anonymously. Or if you really want to expose yourself, you can give us a review, and that will help us connect with other listeners as well.
You can find us on the socials. You're smart, right? You know where all the socials are.
And this episode is going to be on YouTube, so you can also just leave us a comment, but only if it's nice, because we're fragile.
Some of us are fragile.
I'm fragile. I'm a millennial. I'm a little snowflake. I'll melt away.
You can email us rude@impolitesocietypodcast.com. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you think. Give us topic suggestions. We'd love to hear them.
And we hope you enjoy our summer. Shorts, suns out, bums out.
I don't got
Let's
no bum.
go.
I got a flat little booty. Nobody wants to see it. I don't know what I'm singing.